Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, community, and higher power, this show is for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love or love the life you create. Now, here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host, Coach K.
Hey, welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. How are you doing, Coach K?
I am doing amazing. And how about yourself?
Good. I missed you last week. Yes, I was.
I know. Glad to have you back.
I was spending time with my sorority sisters just on the reunion, and so that was just a wonderful experience.
Nice. There were a couple of, I guess, the fraternity and sorority gatherings this past week, and I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. But this was just one of our personal line. Yeah, we did 30 years. So it was great, definitely. And you had a wonderful show last week.
Yeah, we had two lovely guests on last week, and it was great show, great insight, just like we're going to do again today.
Yes, which I'm so excited that we are going to be awakening, which is, yes.
And I love it. The title alone, I love.
Yes, in line with love, which is, love is just a free gift in this world.
It is, and not one that is taken advantage of enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or should I say it's not accepted?
Right.
Right.
And people are searching all over for it, where in many cases it starts with yourself and the spirit. Yes.
Yes, it's right there in our laps.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get to have our guest on to talk about this. And before we get to that, one of the things in July that we've been highlighting is Sisters for Sisters Network, which is a nonprofit that helps empower sisters and having their own businesses and providing resources and motivational stuff. And they also help with domestic violence and mental health, which is a great thing. So if you're thinking about an organization that you're wanting to get help on, or you want to use it, think about Sisters for Sisters Network.org. Yes.
That's always, I love that network, and support is always needed. So it's a very good program. It's nonprofit for this month.
Right, definitely in the month of July. So, yes, let's talk about this show that's coming up.
This is going to be, like I said, I think the title alone, just the enlightening, and awakening piece. It almost, when you say it, you want to breathe deep and feel it. That's what I kind of love, when words make you do things.
So we're going to breathe deep. We're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to be awakened with an expert on this life of love. We'll take a break and we'll be back in a moment.
Are you wanting a vacation in paradise? A vacation to rekindle the passion. A vacation without the kids. A vacation where you can learn how to communicate, where you and your partner actually hear each other and gain insight. If so, vacation counseling is your next vacation. Dr. April Brown has created vacation counseling in Southwest Florida as a perfect option for you and your partner. Our retreats are one couple at a time. We have a variety of packages available to choose from, including virtual couples retreats. If you and your partner are interested in vacation counseling, please visit us at vacationcounseling.com for more information on pricing and packages. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To keep track of the latest news, stories, activities, or coupons on vacation counseling and Dr. April's other services, we encourage you to sign up to receive a monthly newsletter called Intimate Connections at draprilbrown.com. Remember, if you and your partner are struggling with communication and intimacy, and you all are looking for a retreat to connect, vacation counseling can be your next vacation in Southwest Florida.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, Roxanne.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes, and so we're so happy to have you because you are a guest and an expert on awakening and enlightening love. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So
That
thank
deep
you
breath.
so much for being on the show. And as we are on the show, guys, and we're live, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and also on Clubhouse. If you have any questions, please feel free. But let me tell you a little bit about Roxanne. She is, of course, the CEO of her own company, but she is a lifelong coach, an inspirational speaker, a spiritual guide, an energy healer. She guides individuals in transition to create lasting and sustainable change in their lives. She feels like her purpose is to provide a safe and powerful place for her clients and anyone she meets to discover the answers they need to move forward spiritually, energetically, personally, with absolute purpose and clarity. And you know what, Roxanne? That is so beautiful because many times people don't think about how spiritually, medically, psychologically, we're all in this together and how it's all connected. So I really, really like that. And your guiding belief is in the power of self-awareness, which is the fuel for personal growth and soul mastery, which allows her clients to make positive change, find their happiness, and create a soul-filled life at a cellular level. Well, yes, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so excited. And you've got so much more to say.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here and to really dive into these amazing conversations.
Yes. How long have you been doing this work?
I've really been doing this work for over 15 years, but I've started my business in the last, since 2019. So the last 3 years, I've been really going strong and really trying to affect change in the world.
Awesome. Yes. And so anyone who comes on this show, we ask, because your philosophy is very similar to what this show is about intimacy.
Absolutely.
Yes. How do you define intimacy?
I believe that intimacy starts with ourselves. I believe that it's important to have that intimacy with ourselves and to have an incredible sense of unconditional love towards ourselves and being kind to ourselves and being compassionate towards ourselves and really just loving the entity of who we are, from the intellectual component, from our emotional to our physical to our spiritual to our energy. So I believe that intimacy then translates to our partners. I believe that we can only meet our partners as far and as willing as we are willing to meet ourselves.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely. Yes. Yes. I was just thinking, yeah. And you do a lot of work with the soul.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
How did you come to feel like that was your purpose?
Yeah, it's funny because ever since I was a little girl, I just had this deep knowingness that I was going to serve humanity. I didn't truly understand what that was going to look like, but I was always very receptive to energy. And people would come to me as adults, like being a 5-6-year-old child and really wanting to be in my presence, to be in my energy, to have calmness, to have stillness, to have clarity. And they would seek wisdom, they would seek advice and guidance throughout their life. Like adults would be sharing their life story as a child and being like, what direction do you think I should go to? What move do you think I should make next? And my mom always found it very, odd. She was like, you know what, you should probably be a psychologist or a neuropsychologist or a counselor. And I was like, you know what, that just didn't feel in alignment with me. And I come from an Indigenous background. So I'm Native American with a bit of French, and it's a culture here called Métis. And I didn't fully understand my heritage in that moment when I was a child and as I was growing up, because it wasn't something we spoke of. A lot of us that were in this culture, there was a lot of stigma around the culture. There was a lot of history that transpired throughout Canada where I live with the Indigenous culture. So it wasn't something that we spoke of as a family, because if we didn't look of the culture, we didn't really want to speak of it. But I always felt this magnetization to really explore my heritage and to really understand the traditions that we used to do, the healing modalities that we used to do. And I couldn't really fathom why. And throughout my journey, going through my own trials and tribulations, I ended up having this incredible dream for almost 4 months straight. And I've always done dream interpretations.
Okay.
And this beautiful Indigenous woman came to me, and she was standing in front of this ravina, and there was teepees beside her, and she had her arms extended to me, and she kept chanting me this melancholy song, and it just felt so soothing and so peaceful. And I remember the connection in my dream just felt like she was of like my maternal grandmother, great grandmother. And I couldn't understand what she was trying to relate to me. I was like, okay, she's showing me the land, but what is she trying to tell me? And I spoke with an elder in my community, and here the elders in our communities are the ones that carry the wisdom, they carry the traditions, the healing medicines, they know where the healing grounds are. So they know the history of our culture. And I brought it to this gentleman, he was a shaman. And I was telling him of my dream. He's like, she's calling you to the land. She's calling you to the land to come and heal. And I'm like, come and heal. Where am I going? What am I doing? where do I go? He's like, it will come to you in dream state. And he was like, you're meant to be a healer. You're meant to be a shaman. I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, where do I start? And he's like, it will come to you in vision. So I kind of left it at that. And as I was singing him, I was chanting him the song that she was singing to me. And he said, oh my God, he said, that song hasn't been heard in healing circles for over 100 years. He's like, my great grandfather and my grandfather used to sing this song to me, but not the exact same way, but not in form of healing circle. He's like, but it's almost like she changed the rendition of the song to make it custom to you, like for you. And I was like, oh my goodness, I had goosebumps all over my body. I'm like, what do I do with this information?
Yes.
And I met with this incredible spiritual guide shortly after, and I was telling her of my dream, and there was no connection between the two of them. And she said, yeah, she's calling you to the land to come and heal. She's like, you're meant to be a shaman. You're meant to be a healer. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, where do I go? Like, where am I starting? And it's funny enough, the last night that I had the dream, that morning I woke up and I told my partner, I said, listen, I said, I'm being called to the land to come and heal. I'm just going to trust where I'm being guided. And it was like this pouring rain of a day. It was like a torrential downpour. And I'm going in this forest, and my partner's like, hey, you're going in the forest with bears and wolves and by yourself, and it's pouring out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be fine. I trust that I'm protected. And he's like, just bring something for my sanity. So I did. And I went on this beautiful healing journey for myself. I didn't really understand that's what it was at the beginning, but I knew I was starting to embark on something. And I got into my vehicle and I just started crying. And it was like a release. It was like, I hadn't cried in years. I was always like, the rock and being strong, and didn't think that I should cry, and being strong for my children, being strong through all the trials and tribulations that I've endured. And it was like this release. And I was like, I was so disconnected from my emotions, so disconnected from my soul, even though I told everyone I was okay and I was fine. I was always positive and always optimistic, but I wasn't truly in alignment with who I was. And I started going on this journey. And as I got there, I was just crying the entire time. And I was listening to this beautiful Indigenous song that I've listened to since I was a little girl. And I was chanting the song that she was singing to me, and it just made me cry even more. And I get to this forest, and there's about a 15 to 20-minute trek inside, and I find this beautiful healing rock. And I know that these are ancient indigenous healing grounds. And I go on this rock and I'm doing a smudging ceremony. So for the listeners that don't know what smudging is, it's something that we use within our cultures, within the indigenous cultures, in order to cleanse and clear our energy. And sometimes we're burning sage, we burn Palo Santo, we burn cedar, tobacco, wild tobacco, anything of that nature. And I'm doing this smudging ceremony, and all the elements are surrounding me. I have water around me, I have trees, I have the air, I have the earth, and I have fire from the smudging ceremony. And all of a sudden, a deer, a little bunny rabbit, a little chipmunk comes out, and there's a hummingbird flying from tree to tree. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so bizarre, because hummingbirds don't fly when it's like pouring rain like that. They'll come out when it's drizzling, but not pouring rain. So I was just in awe. And as I realized, as I was on this rock for over 4 hours, just crying and feeling reconnected to my ancestry, reconnected to my lineage, and understanding the wisdom that was kind of being translated to me, I realized that as I'm sitting on this rock, there's no enclosure over this rock. There's trees surrounding the rock, but there's no enclosure, and not one single drop of rain hit me the entire time that I was sitting on this rock. I wasn't even wet.
It was like the nature was connecting also.
And when I came home, my partner was like, "Oh my goodness, like how are you not like drenched?" But anyways, when I was in this healing ceremony, and after that moment, in that moment where I was able to reconnect every aspect of who I was, I'm like, okay, I'm a healer. I know what I'm supposed to do. There is no doubt about that. I know exactly what I'm intended to do, but I did it for myself. But can I do this for others? And that's when I started embarking on a journey and kind of, asking my friends and my family to kind of being my guinea pig to see, is this effective? Can I affect that change and guide them to their own healing journeys? And sure enough, I did, and none of their lives were the same afterwards. They all lead incredible lives now. They all have a sense of inner peace and fulfillment. So then I knew I was a healer, and that's where I came into the energy work.
Wow. Yes. And Roxanne, I really love your story, because I am also a believer that we're connected to our ancestors. I've had that experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's the ancestors, the environment, nature, we're all connected.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in your work as a healer and energy healer, tell me, how does that work out? What do you do as an energy healer?
Yeah, absolutely. And this was really important for me, because I've always been guiding people my entire life. I just never kind of made it my business. And every career that I really had, I was still guiding others. And for me, there was an important culmination that I needed to have a bit of the coaching aspect. And I've had the counseling aspect as well. I worked with neuropsychologists, psychologists, social workers for over 13 years. So I had a very good understanding of how the intellectual mind worked, and our brains worked, and all of our frontal lobes, our cortexes and such. So it was really important for me to understand the coaching element, so that when I was bringing in the healing element, that I would be able to effectively heal someone, guide them to heal themselves at all 4 layers of their being, and not just at the energetic level. So when I do this type of work, a lot of it comes to our conditionings, our belief systems, our programming. Some of it has to do with our epigenetics. Some of it has to do with our generational trauma, our childhood trauma, our imprintation that is happening within our energy field. So that's why it was really important for me to understand what was happening at the intellectual level, the emotional level, and the physical level before going to the energetic side of everything. Okay. So that's the bulk of my work, is that I work layer per layer as kind of like an onion. I peel back the layers, and then I get to the sweet spot, which is the soul, which is the energy.
So early on in the discussion, you were saying that, with the dream that they were saying that you were called to be a shaman. For those out there who are not familiar with the energy and healing world, what are you, would you consider yourself a shaman, and what is that?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I am a shaman. I was initiated. There's an initiation process for shamans. So I'll go back to the beginning of what a shaman is. And my apologies, I should be explaining that. So shamans really are, shamanism has been around for over 100,000 years. So these are tried, true, and tested healing modalities. And back then in those tribal communities, they would have been considered medicine doctors, medicine women, spirit doctors, energy healers. These were the healers and the practitioners of their tribal communities all throughout the world. So this is where shamanism stems from. And in order to be a shaman, it's not something you can just, get a certification online, even though they do offer it. But what it is that it's something that you're born with, something that you're called to do. And there's an initiation process within the elder community to, in fact, instill that you are a shaman.
Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that it was something that you really had to be called to. Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense in a variety of ways, definitely.
Right. And there's a lot of misconceptions out there, I think, as trends start happening and Reiki healing and shamans, but you'll know a real shaman when you meet them. It'll be very evident.
Awesome. So we're talking about souls a lot, and many people are sometimes figuring out what should they do, what is their soul mission. Yeah, how do you help in that process? How do you even begin to discover it?
Absolutely. And this is really was the importance for me is this is why I made it my soul's mission is to guide others to heal, love, and deeply awaken and to free the confinements and release the confinements of their soul. So for me, it's really important as we are going through an awakening period, it doesn't need to be something that is traumatic or we don't have to go through something catastrophic in order to be awakened. And there's a massive misconception that we have to go through this trauma in order to actually be awakened to our soul's mission, but that's not the reality. We are able to seek this wisdom and we're able to have this knowledge as the answers are already within us. What ends up happening in the bulk of my work is we start removing our core belief systems. We start rebuilding our foundation on a belief system that actually resonates true within our soul, within our intuitive senses and within our instinctual senses, opposed to what we were told we should believe or what we were told we should be doing, that we should go to college, we should have this career, yet we all feel unfulfilled in our careers and our relationships and so forth. And this is why so many people are disconnected from their emotions. This is why so many people are disconnected from their soul. So the bulk of that work is really to have that interrogation and to have the accountability of why do I believe this? Why do I believe that I need to work this 9 to 5 and work for a pension and work 35 years and be in an unfulfilled marriage because I have children with someone? It's just about looking at all the layers and really understanding and rebuilding the basis and the foundation of who we are on our own belief system and not the belief system that others have instilled or that we've instilled within ourselves because of something that has transpired throughout our life.
Right. And I was just thinking, once you know yourself and you discover your belief system, whatever that is, then you attract.
Absolutely. And this is, brings us into the laws of the universe and the natural laws of the universe. And not just the law of attraction, as many people, like to believe, but it's about raising our vibration, raising our frequency, and understanding that we are one. We are all interconnected. We are interconnected with every living creature and every living being on this planet. We are energy and we are frequency. Where we vibrate at is what we attract throughout our life. And that comes to love, abundance in love, abundance in finances, abundance in business, abundance in health. This all relates to our frequency and our vibration. So that's why it's so important that we are embarking on this incredible soul and self-mastery journey.
Now, doing the energy work, and I know, healing people's souls and all, does that get heavy on you? And if so, how do you in turn heal yourself from what you've received?
Absolutely. And I think that as we all beginning stages really, and being maybe a beginner healer, it's really easy to get bogged down with somebody else's energy. But this is the principle of our work, is that there needs to be grounding done in place and to understand that their energy belongs with them and my energy belongs with me. And when we come to that place and we understand that we are not to carry other people's burdens and we are not there to carry others' energies, it's by creating those intellectual, those emotional, and those physical and those spiritual boundaries with our clients. and understanding that their traumas are their traumas and it's not something that I need to manage. When I go into a healing ceremony and I'm doing a retreat, like a healing retreat, and I have so many energies coming at me, sometimes I'll have an assistant or two so that they can kind of replenish my energy, because, by being in a room with anyone, if it's negative or if it's, like an energy vampire, it's very easily to get drained, even though you're not even having engagement or even having conversation with that person. So I'll just make sure that I'm sustaining myself in that way.
It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. That was just interesting how you said that. Of course, I do believe other people drain your energy. Yes. But also having positive people or other people to be as buffers. It's definitely, yes.
Absolutely. And I believe, I'm very selective on who I work with as well in clients. I think that it's important to understand that it's a reciprocal energetic exchange, and there has to be a beautiful synergy there. And that's why I'm very selective on who I work with, because I don't want to feel depleted in any way, because there are very powerful people out there that have a little bit more of a heavier energy.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you that. Are there any are there any encounters that you walk into and you just immediately know, like, you can feel that force field that you're like, I think somewhere else might be better
Yeah.
seated.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm always very honest, but with compassion. And
Yes.
I believe in always telling the truth, but always being very compassionate as well. And just kind of relaying that it's just not a good mix. It's just not a good match, and there's no alignment. And that's okay. And that's me having boundaries. And every practitioner should have boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. You also indicated, and I don't know if it's similar, light worker, because I've never heard of that terminology before.
Yeah, so light workers are, there's different references for light workers, and light workers do different things. So the light working that I do, and the spectrum of light working that I do, is that I shift other people's energy. So when I see someone that is really emanating a beautiful, bright, bright, bright energy, but they're almost at the point of burning out, my job as a light worker is to kind of bring their energy down a little bit more, to come more in a little bit of peaceful state, opposed to resonating too much so that they're burning out. And if we think about someone that is, very dim or very dark lighted, my job and what I like to do is I like to bring their light into the middle and closer to a little bit more of a brighter energy. And light working can look different for everyone. Most people that are in the capacity of serving humanity, social workers, counselors, coaches, they are all light workers in some sense, because they are taking it upon themselves to shift the dynamic of the world.
So can you feel energy even when you're not working? Is it like anytime you go to the grocery store, or even now, or whatever you're doing? Yeah. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm always reading people, even though, you don't want to be, because it can be very, intellectually exhausting. But I'm always reading people. I can always see the disruptions happening within their aura and within their energy field. I can see kind of the trauma just by looking at someone. And it's just really important for me to understand that, as much as I want to do that because I just want to help everyone. I just want to, the person in the grocery store, hey, like, you need to really work on, like, rebalancing your heart chakra. And they're like, what? Who are you? But I just, I have to keep that to myself. And it's just about really understanding my own boundaries, that I'm not supposed to be going into other people's energy fields, and that I really need to stay true to my own energy field. But if someone asks me, I will gladly and willingly share any information that I have. But I think that it's also important to understand that we all feel energy. We're all receptive to energy. Just some of us have a little bit more noise and feel a little bit more blocked than others, but we all are receptive to energy. We intuitively, instinctively, and energetically know if we love someone or if we like someone. You can walk into a room and be like, oh, I love that person's energy. I love the vibration that they're carrying. You instinctually know. It's just something we discredit. We don't actually look a little bit further into it. So we all do it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So if anyone is out there listening and they want to get in touch with you,
Absolutely.
doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. They can find me on my website at www.roxannechaput.com. And all of my social media handles are under that name as well.
Awesome. And what type of people, which I should have asked earlier, come to see you?
A lot of my clients are either at the commencement stages of their awakening period where they know that they need to shift. Some of them are a little bit further along, more intermediate into their journey, or more advanced, and they're really struggling and they feel like they're stuck at something and they just can't figure out what it is. So it just depends on the client, but it's usually those that are ready to see things from a different perspective and are ready to actually change their lives.
Okay, yeah. You said a couple of times. Oh, I was going to just ask one quick question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You said a couple of times it's awakening period.
Absolutely. And awakening, when we go through awakenings, it's not like just one awakening and you're there. We undergo a multitude of awakening periods throughout our life. And that is the purpose of our life, is to really, embrace our journey. And we are always transitioning, we are always transforming, and we are always evolving in order to really elevate ourselves to our highest self. So we can have countless awakening periods, and sometimes some others will have 20 and 30 within, a span of 2 years, because they're just not listening to the signals of what's transpiring around them. And they're not understanding that they need to shift. So it just depends on what they're going through.
I was going to ask, because I'm just nosy. I see you have the feather in your hand.
Oh.
See that? Okay.
What's the feather?
It's from my great grandmother. She gifted it to me before she had passed, and I always have it with me when I'm in speaking engagements. Even when I'm hosting my podcast, I always have it. I just feel like it grounds me.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's like bringing her right there. She is there with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
She was one of my biggest cheerleaders. I think she always knew that I was very highly intuitive and very in my energetics. And it wasn't something that she could have really have spoken of when she was living. And it was always something she always saw in me. She always said that she saw herself in me. So I just felt a lot of love for her. So.
Oh, awesome. And now you're helping other people awakening with and being enlightened with love. So that's amazing. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was such an honor. Thank you.
Yes.
It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes.
Nice to meet you, Miigwech.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a break and we'll be back in a moment.
Are you in a relationship with someone that you see often, but you feel so disconnected with them? Bringing intimacy back can help you bring the intimacy back to your relationship. BIB is dedicated to inspire, enlighten, and encourage intimate connections. Live shows, weekly guest speakers with over 29,000 downloads. We can help promote your products and services, grow your business and clientele with BIB. Want to become part of the BIB family? You can now sponsor with us.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy Show, where intimacy is real. Wow, that was so enlightening. It reminds me.
Enlightening.
It reminded me of Maya Angelou, how she said, and I believe this, wherever we are, we are with our generations that came before us.
And I just think that it was such a soothing experience, just in general. So because her energy is nice and soothing. And of course, I would assume that in order to be in that line of work, you have to be a calming person. So, and I think that was super awesome to learn about the feather, because I was like, oh, I see the feather. It is, it made some appearances. So that was amazing. Show. And I think there are a lot of people that could benefit greatly from this process when they are ready.
Right. When they're struggling and they want to be awakened. Yes.
Absolutely. Great show.
Yes. So what other shows do we have coming up?
So we have a lineup of amazing shows coming up. Can't believe next week is already August. Woo. So on August the 4th, we have Tilly Storm with Igniting Sexual Desire and Passion in Long-Term Relationships. On August the 11th, we have Goody Howard here with Sexual Pleasure. On August 18th, we have Megan Warren with Mind and Body Connection. And then on August the 25th, we have Marielle with Importance of Cultivating a Connecting Sex Life. That's awesome. I like that one.
Yes. Well, if you're out there and you're like struggling and you're like, I don't know my purpose, really, really go check Roxanne out. She was wonderful, and she has a way or method that you may not even think about to help you connect with your soul and to help in the healing. So definitely check her out. And it's been a great show and awesome. And we will see you guys next week. This has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back. We hope you enjoyed it. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com and Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Twitter. Dr. April Brown's 5-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon, available in Kindle, Audible, or paperback. We'll see you next Thursday live at 3:30 p.m.